If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're going to have a problem. He says he knew all aspects of football, but the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach, knew offense inside and out, and he trusted him to do that. Same way with the defense, same way with the offensive line. So he knew general faults about all of it, but he hired an expert to do that thing.
Welcome to Time to Press Pause, real life stories from the C-suite. I'm your host, Ellen Williams, CEO of The Salient Strategist and author of Creating Time, the Key to Productivity and Peace. And I am excited to welcome you to our second anniversary edition. It's been 2 years, and I am so grateful for all the guests who have shared their stories. Some sad, some heartwarming, but all inspirational. And today is no different. The topic we're discussing today is taking that pause because it's time to grow your business and hire new people. And that can be a daunting task. My guest today is Thomas Cox, founder of Cox Capital. He is a financial architect and infinite banking strategist who's helped business owners and real estate investors deploy millions through private lending and IBC strategies that actually build wealth and protect capital. He previously built and scaled multiple seven-figure catering businesses, then transitioned full-time into real estate and private capital. Thomas owns 32 multifamily units across the Southeast, runs short-term rentals, and leads a private lending network fueling deals across the South. Thomas also hosts the Owner's Table podcast and loves spending time with his family. Welcome, Thomas. It's so great to have you here today on Time to Press Pause.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too. We haven't had the opportunity to chat, so it's new to me as it's new to the listeners. So please tell me your Press Pause story.
I've got two, but I think the one that's probably the most impactful is the most recent one, Ellen. His backstory is I coached college football for about 10 years and then got out of college football, I don't know, probably 12, 13 years ago, and then had a little bit of a layover job, and I started my own business. When I started my own business, you have a tendency to work extremely hard and work extremely long hours. Most successful people do. It's not a have to. It's usually just a byproduct of having your own thing. Because it's like I got 3 kids. It's like my 4th child. It really is. Okay. We were rocking and rolling. I was working my face in the dirt. I'm talking like going on nights and weekends. I was get up early. Sometimes I didn't see them at all. Sometimes I'd see them when they went to bed, just things like that. I had the realization that I needed to press pause because if I didn't, those humans would be gone. And I did not want those humans to be out of my house, out of my care. I enjoy owning my own business. I enjoy making money. I enjoy the business process. But I will say this, the humans in my house are so much more important than any of that stuff because I can go make a lot more money. I can go make more relationships, but I'll never have those kids. Because honestly, Ellen, they are our legacy. They are like what we shape in them is a reflection of who we are. So what I did is I overhired at work. I hired someone to take care of the night and weekend stuff. I gave my assistant more responsibility, paid her more, and I gave her more responsibility. And I took a step back. It was very difficult, but what it did was, and you've heard the cliche 1,000 times, I worked on the business, not in the business, and I truly did. So I overhired. So here's what happened, though. I made less money for a little bit because when you hire somebody, what happens is there's a gap. Okay, I hired Kristen. Kristen is now on the team. That's a salary that I didn't account for. And what happens is this. You can't account for time in that mechanism, meaning she's making X number of thousands of dollars a month. I can't quantify that payment initially because what it's given me is time, and time sometimes can't be put on paper. And so when I pressed pause there, I took a step back and I was a home more. I was done earlier. I could put the kids in bed. I could go do more. I could go to more weekend tournaments, things like that. So that was the area in my life that is extremely vivid that I tell about all the time when I press pause and just said, okay, enough is enough.
That's awesome. You said it was recent. How recent?
Probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, 4 or 5 years ago. Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. So I think two things. One, I love that you were like, if I can't do it, someone else has to. So I have to go hire someone.
No
But
question.
then you took someone that was already working with you and you were like, you get more money, you get more responsibility. So even for a small single owner business, you're putting together an upward path for people. And that doesn't always happen at a smaller business.
Yeah. The hardest part about business is training and retaining. Training people stinks. I do not like doing it. And I'm going to be honest with you, girl, I am not very good at it. I'm not very good at training people because I think they should, if I hired you, you should be good. And I want to, but I'm just not good at it. When I was coaching college football, the head coach told me something, and this is, I've kept it even through all the businesses and stuff that we've owned. He says, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're going to have a problem. He says he knew all aspects of football, but the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach, knew offense inside and out, and he trusted him to do that. Same way with the defense, same way with the offensive line. And so he knew general thoughts about all of it, but he hired an expert to do that thing. I'll give you a great example. Kristen, the girl that I hired, she doesn't do sales. She doesn't do marketing. She don't make no food. She just goes and she performs the events. She executes the events. That's all she does. She comes in later than everybody else. Like some of the team gets there at 6 in the morning. She gets there at 9 or 10. And then she executes it. So she does her job and she does it well. She's better at it than I am. Now, she wasn't the first 6 months because I had to show her, but now she's better at it than I am. And so, number one, you want to hire people that are better at said task than you are. Number two, you want to hire people that enjoy said task better than you are. Because some of this crap I don't like doing. So I got to get them to do that. Because if I was having to do that, all that, and I was having to work all those hours, I would have been miserable because I truly do enjoy spending time with my kids. Here's the thing that people don't tell you. Some people don't like being with their kids. They don't ever tell you that, but they don't. So me being able to fully understand that I like spending time with my kids. I want to do that more. So I need to give somebody some more money so that they can do that. So I ain't got to do it. And it's been great. It's helped us expand other businesses that we've done that are not as labor intensive for me. And I've enjoyed it.
That's wonderful that you took that lesson and you've used it again and again, as you mentioned, with some other businesses. Great lesson to learn. And I think your basketball conversation is relevant. You shouldn't be the smartest one in the room. You need to have the opportunity to keep growing. Certainly with like solo entrepreneurs, it gets tough. You wind up being the only one in the room, and you really want to grow your network so that you
Sure.
do have the opportunity to have those conversations, and you
Absolutely.
do find people who are experts at things that you're not, and
Yep.
you do understand the value of delegating and the value of time and
That's right.
how you choose to use it or create it. So my new book, Creating Time, is out, and it's all about being present and understanding how you want to use your time and taking control of it. So I think this is a fantastic example. And I like being with my kids now, with my grandkids.
That's right.
But I enjoyed being with my kids as well. So you mentioned you had a second press pause.
The second press pause was very similar. So one of the good qualities that I do have is I am an extremely diligent and hard worker. I love to work. I don't have many hobbies. I like to work. The negative side of that is I'm a hard worker and I like to work. It's a give and a take. I was coaching college football and loved the football world from the time I was 5, Ellen. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I was sitting there in May during May recruiting, and I talked to this guy who had went from a mid-major to one of the biggest schools in the country. And I saw him. I said, "Hey, how is it? How's it going? Are you enjoying being at this big time schools, at SEC school. And he looks at me and this is the last week of May. He looks at me and goes, I've been home one weekend since signing day. Signing day is the first Wednesday in February. So from all of February, all of March, all of April, and the bulk of May, he had been home one weekend. Ellen, that's the off season. That's not even the busy time of year. At that point, the Lord changed my heart. He changed my heart. And we only had 2 kids at the time. And I knew that if I was going to have an impact on my kids, I was going to need to be there more. And so I just looked at my wife. I said, hey, look, and obviously this is a long story, but the short version is I just looked at my wife and said, hey, look, we're going to do something different. She goes, what are we going to do? I was like, I don't know. This is just not it. So me pressing pause in that part of my life was very difficult because honestly, Ellen, here's the truth. I quit without having a job. I told my boss that I was going to work for 2.5 more months. I said, hey, look, I'm going to get you to the end of the season, but in January, I'm done. He goes, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I didn't have a job, which is bananas. It's ludicrous, girl. Like, why would you do that? So I did. I had 2 kids, wife that worked part-time, and I quit my job. But me taking a step back and going from working 75-ish hours a week back to being 35, 40 hours a week, I was like, well, wait a minute, I got all this free time. So it was, that was probably the second moment, probably is just as important in some ways because it changes the trajectory of our career and our path and our life in general. So that was probably, that was the second moment. That was originally the first, but that was another press pause moment that we had.
I've heard that as well, where you're doing something and you just realize it's not the forever thing, it's not in alignment. Time to pull the trigger to walk away from that.
That's right.
And I have done a couple times, left a job without anything else. And yeah, I wind up bouncing entrepreneur, employee, back and forth a lot of my career, big chunks of both. And one of the last time, not this time, but the previous time, I looked at my husband, I said, we're just going to have to take the leap of faith again. And he was like, go for it.
Let's do it. That's it.
Yeah, you have to be. So one thing I found interesting about both those stories is you said you were recruiting and then in your business, you started hiring. And I would love to hear more on the process for finding the right people, because you also said, I think Kristen is better at it than you were.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So what's your process for finding the right fit for your business?
This is not going to be the answer that you want, but I'm going to give you the honest answer, okay?
That's the one I want.
I quit trying to do it myself and I started hiring recruiters to do it. And here's why. My time is so much more valuable than that. So I'm going to give you a great example. Give you some context. I currently own and operate a financial business. I do annuity life insurance, and I help people with the finance part of it. But in the previous sector, I own food company. I own 2 different catering companies. We have a company that feeds a small college. I do that. I don't have to be in that as much anymore, so my time is on finance. We had a chef leave. Guy just didn't show up the next day, and so I had to put my apron back on because I had been out of that. And I said, this sucks. Because here's what I had done. I'm going to be a little technical. I had been hiring restaurant guys that had success in restaurants. And what happened was restaurant guys don't do well in my niche. So I'm catering and feeding a small college, not a restaurant. Totally different thought processes, okay? So when doing that, I hired a headhunter, recruiter, whatever you want to call him. And he just started asking a bunch of questions. And he's, yeah, bro, you don't need a restaurant guy. You need a country club or a hotel guy. Took a 15-minute conversation of this guy asking me questions for him to figure that out before I did. And I think I paid him like 10 grand. And he took the funnel, he dwindled it down to 3. I called 3 phone conversations, and then I ended up bringing 2 people in, and I hired a guy, and it's been the best freaking money I've ever spent. Because again, we go back to the time thing. None of us value our time as much as we do other things in our life. You can't quantify time sometimes. You can't sit there and go, how many hours is it going to take me to sift through these resumes? Number two, where do I go to find these freaking people? Because here's the thing too, the people that are looking for a job probably don't need to be hired by you. Now, there's always the exception. But if you got a bunch of people looking for a job that don't have a job, never hire a person that don't have a job. That's probably not a great rule, but it's a pretty good rule, because why don't they have a job? Like, what's the deal? Why do they not have a job? So all that being said, the recruiting process for me has changed. I used to do all the resumes and post on LinkedIn and all that stuff. I hire somebody to do that now, and it's been a game changer for me.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Once again, delegate to someone who's the expert. Save you frustration. I don't know how many business owners are great interviewers or even know how to identify the information coming from an interviewee as being good or bad. I'm not sure. I like to interview people. I interview my clients. I interview my podcast guests. But to get to the point of interviewing someone to hire, that's a different skill set.
It's also a network too. So I'll give you a great example. The guy that I use, his name is David Hicks. Shout out to David. He does a great job. I think he's hired 3 or 4 people for me. David's got this network of people that do anything from IT to sales to consult. His network is amazing. I don't have that network, but he doesn't have my network. So his skill set and his knowledge and his relationships are just so deep in that world. He's worth his weight in gold. I recommend that guy all the time. I don't care who you are. If somebody's listening, they need to hire somebody, especially an upper level position. This guy's a dog. He is so good at what he does, and he's great to deal with. So not only is he good at his job, but him and me, the conversation between him and me is great too. So he's such a good asset for any business owner.
So to that point, then, if you're not doing the recruiting for the actual employee, how do you find the recruiter or anybody in your network that really connects with you? You've mentioned relationships a couple times, and obviously anybody running a business has to develop relationships.
Yeah.
So what's your approach to that? What made David the guy for you?
There's a couple things. Number one, I try to eat lunch with somebody every day. That's simple. Number two, this sounds really silly. I love the Facebook is so good for, hey, I need so. And look, 60, 70% of them suck, but the other 30 or 40% are pretty decent. And because here's the thing, let me say this. People love to refer other people. I love it. Did it yesterday on Sunday. I get a message, who does your sewing? The guy said, who does your paid ads? David Nips. The guy's awesome. Let me link you. I get a link. And I loved it. I love doing that. And it's the same thing. You get on the Facebook and you say, I'm looking for a X, Y, and a Z. Needs to be this, needs to be that.
I think LinkedIn is more business oriented. But since we're talking about relationships, how do you use Facebook? Do you use it for business, or is it really your friends that you trust? That's why you go there for this kind of referral.
That's a good question. So obviously we post all of our business and I don't post much personal stuff, but I post a lot of business stuff on Facebook, Instagram. We're on all the platforms. I use it for that, but it's also just a microphone. Let's just be honest. Microphone for what you're yelling, and it's also a microphone for what you're taking. And so I think you can use it in both ways. You don't hear about the positive stuff because it doesn't elicit a eye-catching response. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does. I don't do a lot of business on Facebook, but I recently joined a networking group that does all their stuff on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so now I'm getting all these friend requests and really having to think hard. Like I live on LinkedIn, revisit my thoughts of Facebook. Your comments were timely for me.
Yeah.
So Thomas, you've given great advice. And I love how we were able to dig into recruiting and family too. What advice do you have for other leaders, how they could identify it's time for them to press pause?
There's two things. Number one, look at your calendar. Okay. Number one, if you're organized, and if you're not organized, it's harder to help you. Number one, look at your calendar. Your calendar and your checkbook typically tells you where your priorities are. They do. Number two, I think a lot of this stuff too, Ellen, gets back to a faith process. Like, what do you believe? I'm a believer, love Jesus. He is the center of our universe. Whatever your thing is, like, there's got to be some sort of basis point that you center and get back to. What is that for you? Let that be your guide also. Okay. Not instead of, also. So number one, it's a practical general thought of, okay, I'm working 75 hours a week. I haven't seen my kids in 2 days. I need to press pause. Or also, what is the feeling in your gut? That some people say it's your gut. No, it's the Holy Spirit telling you what to do. Follow that and listen to that, because here's the thing. Here's the last lesson I'll leave. The more you listen to your gut / the more you listen to the Holy Spirit, the more sensitive you get to hearing that and doing that and following that. When your child first cries in the crib, it's the first or second time you hear it. After a month, you could be on the other side of the grocery store and hear that child cry that's with your husband, and you know immediately. Why? Because the more we listen to that cry, the more we know it's our child. The more we listen to the Holy Spirit, the more we know that's Him telling us, do this, don't do this, stay back, press pause, whatever. So being sensitive to whatever that call is incredibly important.
That is a really effective way of phrasing that. I like that very much. And it brought me back to that concept of being present when you are paying attention to how you feel, when you are listening to whatever you reference it, your gut or the Holy Spirit or the universe. The more you listen, the more you become attuned to it.
It's so true. And the better we can be at the quality of those reps, the better we're going to be.
Excellent. Thomas, it's been great having you here. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for listening to the second anniversary episode of Time to Press Pause. If you're interested in learning more about Thomas, please visit thomascox.com. If you're interested in learning more about me, please visit thesalientstrategist.com. And my book, Creating Time, The Key to Productivity and Peace, is available on all online bookstores. And please listen again wherever you listen to your podcasts.